Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome back to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube and of course on our Facebook page, which is the Captain Lou Extravaganza Wednesday night program. My tag team partner Mitch Bernstein off this week, so we thought, hey, we got a lot to talk about. Nonetheless, we've got the Game 5 scenario must-win situation for the Pistons tonight as they take on Cleveland. That will start in about an hour at Little Caesars Arena at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We've got that to talk about, maybe a little bit on the woeful Detroit Tigers. But we thought tonight we have bring in a special guest. We've got an excerpt from our show on Monday night, but the main focus tonight will be on taking a look at a new expansion team in the city of Detroit. And that, of course, is the PWHL coming to the Motor City, the Professional Women's Hockey League. And Detroit was named an expansion team amongst three of them so far. I know they want to go four more deep, with Hamilton going to be officially announced tomorrow and Las Vegas announced today. Detroit was announced last week as the ninth franchise, and an exciting time for women's hockey here in the state of Michigan and also the city of Detroit. We had a chance to talk with a writer from the dailyfaceoff.com, and that, of course, Tyler Kuehl. He's been on the show before. We've had him on talking about the ACHA and college hockey. We recorded it yesterday, our interview with Tyler, setting up for the Walter Final, which is going to start tomorrow, the best of five for the PWHL, an all-Canadian final between Ottawa and Montreal. So we'll talk to him about that. Amongst other things, we'll also get a quick feel from him on who he thinks is going to win the Stanley Cup this year, coming up right now with the playoffs going hot and heavy. Game 5 tonight in Colorado, the only game on the docket in the NHL, as the Avalanche looking to punch their ticket to the Western Conference Finals as they have a 3-1 lead over the Minnesota Wild. So we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. And then towards the end of the show, as we mentioned, Monday night, we had Chris Mascaro, the host of the award-winning podcast series, Next on the Tee, as we kind of previewed the second leg of the PGA's Grand Slam, the PGA Championship. We just want to take an excerpt from that as he'll again preview the course that they're going to play on and give us his thoughts on who's going to win it all. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by the official secondary market of the Captain Lou Sports Network, and that is SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. It's that simple. If there's a ball game you want to go to, we talk about it a million times, a show or a concert you want to go to, minor league baseball, Major League Baseball, our Tigers in New York this week, battle of the last place teams with the Mets and the Tigers. Who would have thought, right? Go to SeatGeek, use the promo code Captain Lou. If you're in Detroit right now, you want to go to Game 5, you've still got time, go to SeatGeek, get those tickets, or Game 6 in Cleveland on Friday night. Or you can also potentially go to a Stanley Cup playoff game, Game 6 tomorrow night in Anaheim with the Ducks and the Golden Knights. Or how about Game 5 in Buffalo with the Sabres and the Canadiens? That all tied up at 2. Go to SeatGeek, use the promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get $20 off of that purchase. And one more reminder that we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. You get all of our great content live and archived. Of course, these extravaganza interviews, our programs, our extravagant few minutes episodes. Again, all of our interviews that we have here on the network, you can go back and watch them archived as well. But to do that, the best way to get those, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. And also you can follow us on our social media outlets, the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page, and on X at The Real Captain Lou. All right, without any further ado, we talked about it at the top. Detroit's getting another professional franchise. The PWHL is coming to Detroit this coming year. It is going to be nothing short of spectacular. I think it's a great move for the PWHL. In the takeover games, Detroit has done really well, selling out Little Caesars Arena, getting over 14,000. So it's an exciting time, and I think this professional women's hockey league is going to stick around for a while. And we brought in from the Daily Faceoff, friend of the show, Tyler Kuehl, to talk us through how that all came about. We're going to talk about the Walter Cup final with Montreal and Ottawa, that and a whole lot more. Let's take a listen. Oh, excited to bring in a friend of the program. It's been a while, I get it, but we would love to have Tyler Kuehl back with us from dailyfaceoff.com. Does great work covering all aspects of hockey. Tyler, welcome back to the program. How are you?
I'm good, Lou. It's a gloomy day here in West Michigan. A little bit of rainfall, still cool outside, but you know what? It's hockey season still, so that's I guess all we can ask for.
Oh, it sure is. And the hockey world is an exciting time here in Michigan. I know the Red Wings aren't in the Stanley Cup playoff. We could spend 3 hours talking about the woes of the Red Wings hockey right now, but Detroit's got another pro franchise coming up starting this year, and it's going to be out of the PWHL. Really excited to see that come to the city of Detroit.
Oh man, it feels like a long time coming. I wore my PWHL Detroit shirt. There you go. You see the logo there.
Yeah.
I may have nabbed this at the announcement last week at Little Caesars Arena. I mean, it really feels like it's been a long time coming. Ever since the league started in 2023, it was a very quick kind of production creation leading up to that first season with 6 teams. And people thought, Detroit might be in the running there, but the league decided to go with, for the U.S. markets, at least Boston, Minnesota, New York. And it's worked out certainly for those three. Those three are the biggest markets in terms of hockey players, especially female hockey players here in the U.S. But you kind of just felt that Detroit would have been the next team, especially that first takeover game during that inaugural season, over 13,000 at the time, a U.S. women's pro record in this country. Mm-hmm. We thought, okay, maybe this will push the league to add a team. And last spring, when they were going to announce 2 new teams to add to the league, you thought, okay, is this Detroit's time? But the league decided, hey, let's go coast to coast. They add Vancouver, they add Seattle, which made a lot of sense. You want to have at least 2 regional rivals if you're going to go all the way to the other side of the continent. But that kind of laid the groundwork and the path for whenever the next wave of expansion was, which, as we've learned, has been very quick in year number 3, that Detroit was going to be right there in the thick of it. And with the fact that the league had 2 takeover games, 2 neutral site games at LCA this past season, it really kind of set the tone that, hey, Detroit is a market they want to come to, and a market that I think was pretty solidified with the fact that there was almost 16,000 at the game this past March. So you kind of sensed it was going to happen. All of us speculated, everyone that I was talking to and everyone was asking me is like, oh, is Detroit the next team? I could never give a concrete yes or no, but it was seemingly like a very resounding yes. And then when we got the notification early last week that, there's going to be an announcement in Detroit Wednesday morning, it was pretty apparent that it was going to be the PWHL. And man, the league came out. They had a great production for it. They brought a nice Corvette in there, one of the new vets there into the arena to make the announcement. It's an exciting time, and the turnout that we saw from both the media side, from the youth hockey scene there, Little Caesars, Honey Baked, and all the others that came out, you could tell that there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of interest for the new team in the hockey town.
Now, as part of the announcement, Tyler, they announced that they're going to have the awards ceremony, like the end of the year awards in June in Detroit, and the draft. Now, are they going to do something different? Are they going to have a separate expansion draft for Detroit as well as a regular draft? How does that work this coming summer?
So this year it's going to be a little different. Last year, the league, when Vancouver and Seattle came in, they had what I guess you consider a more traditional setup. Okay. They had each team go out and sign 5 players, whether they were under contract, expiring contracts. And that's what led to Seattle signing the likes of Hillary Knight and Alex Carpenter. And of course, Vancouver got players like Sarah Nurse and Sophie Jakes. And then they had your typical traditional expansion draft where the 2 teams traded off picks. What's happened this year with the talks with the PWHLPA and the league was that the players wanted a little more autonomy, a little more say in where they were going. Okay. There hasn't been names that have been thrown out, but I guess there's been a lot of players that were taken in the expansion draft that simply did not want to go to Vancouver and Seattle, didn't want to uproot from wherever they were. There were a lot of players that were based on the East Coast that all of a sudden had to ship their lives across the country, and they didn't really like that too much. So this year they orchestrated it to where there's going to be what we're calling a series of stages of signings on top of the upcoming draft on June 17th. It's, as far as we know, the league hasn't confirmed the details, but in releases from the PWHLPA to certain reporters, there's going to be 5 stages of signings where I'm going to put it in layman's terms because Haley Salvian has a good breakdown on it. It's very simple. The first stage, which is supposed to start sort of after the Walter Cup final is completed, that's where teams have to sign their current pending free agents in order to have them protected. You're allowed to protect 3 players in the upcoming expansion process, not expansion draft, expansion process. That's how the league likes to call it. And then stage 2 is when these new teams, which was supposedly going to be up to 4. We're hearing Detroit. We know Detroit for sure. Haley Salvian put out the report today that tomorrow Las Vegas is going to be the new team. And then there's also reports that San Jose and Hamilton are the front runners to take the final 2 expansion spots. So a lot of expansion news coming up here in the next couple of weeks. But long story short, by the early June, we're going to have an idea of who the new teams will have on their roster. It's a lot of rules, but in terms of the regular draft, we don't really know much about that either. We know that it's at the Fox Theater, June 17th. We know the time of it. We know that the Vancouver Golden Eyes won their way. They got enough draft order points to get the first overall pick. The rest of the draft, though, is kind of up in the air. Last year, they had Vancouver and Seattle go at the end of every single round. They flip-flopped. Now with 4 teams, there's rumors that it might be Vancouver at number 1 and maybe Seattle at number 2 because they finished bottom 2 in the league. Okay. And then they'll add the next 4 expansion teams in kind of rotation and then have the remaining of the 6 other franchises, which obviously has to be determined once the playoffs are done too. So a lot of moving parts, Lou. And if anyone's ever followed the PWHL, everything is kind of trial by fire and running off the seat of their pants. So I wish I could give you more details on what could happen. But as far as we know, everything is kind of hearsay and reporting by very reliable sources, mind you. But until the league comes out with the concrete evidence of what we're going to see in the draft and the expansion process, everything, especially we have to wait to make sure all 4 teams are announced for next season, the new teams. It's kind of just go by with it and see how it goes. But it's going to be exciting because you're going to see players, unlike what we saw, of course, we just saw with the WNBA expansion draft with Toronto, and we're going to see with the Detroit franchise coming up here in the near future. Those players weren't allowed to pick where they wanted to go. They got picked in the expansion draft, and that is that. These players now will get a say where they go, whether they want to go to Detroit, whether they want to go to Las Vegas, or obviously if Hamilton and San Jose end up being the final 2 expansion rosters and franchises, they could choose to go there. It's going to make things a lot more interesting because we saw this year Vancouver and Seattle, they really struggled, even though we thought they had pretty good rosters, pretty good players on all those teams picked up in the expansion draft. They finished bottom 2 they finished outside of a playoff spot. So it'll be it's going to be an interesting summer to say the least for the PWHL.
Well, one of the next questions I have to ask, we heard that Detroit had, I think, 4,000 deposits for season tickets already.
Yes.
What was it? Within the first 24 hours. Tyler, has that happened since the PWHL started in existence? I mean, this seems like a great reaction for the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan.
Toronto was pretty close because when they first started, they were taking deposits. They kind of capped it at a couple thousand because they weren't sure where the team was going to play. They ended up playing at Mattamy Athletic Center, which was the former Maple Leaf Gardens, but it was kind of transferred to what is now where Toronto Metropolitan University's teams play. Okay. It's a very small arena, so they kind of quickly sold out all their season ticket packages and like, oh, we have nowhere to put fans. So the next year they moved to Coca-Cola Coliseum, the home of the Toronto Marlies and the Toronto Tempo as well, speaking of WNBA. Seattle was... I can't remember the exact number, but it was, I would say 5,000 or 6,000. Of course, Seattle, up until Madison Square Garden, had the record for the highest U.S. women's hockey attendance. They set that record twice this past season. Vancouver, in the revamped Pacific Coliseum, I want to say they hit 8,000. Don't quote me on that. But for Detroit, where a state that I've been pretty blunt with, and it comes to a lot of people that ask me about why Detroit could or could not be a PWHL team or a women's hockey market. Mm-hmm. Women's sports in this state has been kind of overlooked. I mean, we mentioned the Detroit Net WNBA. Lou, their last championship, the Detroit Shock, was 2012. They were gone 2 years later.
Yeah.
And Wayne State briefly had an NCAA D1 team, and we've had that talk. We've talked with Jenna Trubiano a lot about it. I talked with Denise Illich about it multiple times, including at the Detroit announcement last week. There's still a lot of work to do to get a Michigan NCAA team here. So the fact that there's at least 4,000 in the first day, I guarantee that number has certainly grown since then as well, that want to go to Little Caesars Arena, that want to be there for every game. Because truth be told, there's going to be takeover games next year. So it's 13, 14 home games for sure. It's not like it's a massive, not like 41 games for the NHL. It's not a crazy season ticket package, but they want to go to every single game that they can. And knowing that we're going to be probably in the 6,000s by the time, this episode drops, it's impressive. Yes. It shows that there is a undying love for hockey, but also women's hockey and women's sports in general in this state that has really never risen to the surface because of the lack of, I guess, exposure women's sports have had. Because unless Michigan or Michigan State women's basketball or even softball, sometimes, unless they go far into a national tournament, they're not really in the headlines, right?
Right.
We see last week with the Detroit announcement, it's making news over here in Grand Rapids. It's making news nationally. It's obviously the talk of the town in the city of Detroit. Mm-hmm. And that's just the hard work of the league, the Illiches. I know a lot of Red Wings fans and Tigers fans are at wits with the Illiches and Chris Illich and how they run things. But Chris Illich and that company, Illich Sports and Entertainment, they were really hard driving individuals to make this team a reality. They put a lot of work in to make sure that the PWHL felt at home whenever they came to Detroit for the takeover games. So this was seemingly a match made in heaven. The league still owns the team. But the Illiches are helping them out, kind of get their foot in the ground and kind of help provide a little bit of stability and a good foundation for hopefully a long tenured franchise.
Now, with the PWHL, I want to get back to what you talked about with Michigan and hockey at the collegiate level. I want to touch on that real quick. But first, the PWHL, this is their third season. Tyler, what's made them more successful, I guess, lack of a better word, than the previous attempts that with the other women's professional franchises? I think it's long overdue, and I'm ecstatic for them. They seem to be doing really well. What's been the secret to their success?
What's the age-old saying for any business, Lou? In order to make money, you got to spend money.
Right.
Billie Jean King Enterprises stepped in. The Mark Walter Group, the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, stepped in. Stan Kasten stepped in. Billie Jean King's been very hands-on as well. And they spent a lot of money to bring in the right people, the right resources in order to make this league work. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's been different from this league compared to the Premier Hockey Federation, formerly the National Women's Hockey League, the Canadian Women's Hockey League, the Western Women's Hockey League, if you want to go way back into the early 2000s. It's more or less been, the plan was this was going to be a professional league, fully professional. Players don't have to work side jobs. Players don't have to drive from their 9 to 5 on a Friday night, drive their way over to Markham, play in a public rink for maybe 30 people, and then drive back to make sure they got over there for their second job they might be working on a Saturday morning. Right. It's a lot of work. There was a story that was put out before Game 5 of Montreal, Minnesota in their semifinal series. There was a game in the old CWHL when Montreal was trying to win a do-or-die game, and 2 of their players had to get new equipment because one of their cars were stolen earlier in the day. Like just wild stories from the old days of semi-pro women's hockey. So the investment for the PWHL, the financial investment, has been the reason why this league has worked out. They've obviously got a lot of great partners in. They've made partnerships with Barbie, with Discover, with so many other big name corporations. And they were able to get the TV deal right off the hop with TSN and Sportsnet up in Canada and CBC. And then down here in the States, the last game in Detroit, the first nationally televised game in the US on Scripps Sports Ion Television, which is a pretty prominent name and prominent network with women's sports, having deals with both the NWSL and WNBA. The Walter Cup final, by the way, is going to be on Ion Television as well. But that's because of what the folks with Amy Shear, with Jana Hefford, Caston, the whole bunch, they put in the effort to make sure that this league isn't just, a league that we get to see the best players. It is a entertainment product that people flock to, that people want to watch every single night, whether it be their team in their market, or for a lot of us in Michigan, for example, having to pick a team from somewhere else and following that team, or just watching every single game. That's the nice part about only having 6 teams the first 2 years, 8 teams this year. Not many games overlapping, so there's no reason you shouldn't be able to watch every single game in the PWHL. It's a fantastic product because you're seeing the best players every single night. You're seeing Olympians, world champions, players from North America, from Europe, and beyond that. Like it started off with the making sure we have best on best hockey at the pro level, making sure those players are properly compensated. And then the rest of it just kind of snowballed into what now is probably the fastest growing sports league ever since the WNBA's incarnation. But you have to remember, though, for the historical nerds out there, the WNBA came about because the NBA funded it. Right. This came from, I don't want to say private ownership, but because everyone thought the NHL was going to be the backing of a women's professional hockey league. That was never the case. This is the efforts of, like I said, starting with Billie Jean King and her group, Mark Walter and his group, and then everyone around this league. It is just like I said, snowballed, picked up steam, and now they're selling out Madison Square Garden, selling out TD Garden, and averaging over 13,000 in Detroit. Denver's getting 14,000 fans a game. Vancouver's selling out every game. Seattle's getting 17,000. Numbers that were solidified only for maybe Olympic games, maybe a couple of big world championship games if you were lucky. Now we're seeing fans come out in droves every single night. You couldn't ask for a better story here for women's hockey.
No, you couldn't. And it's exciting to watch it grow from afar. I've started watching the games this year because I had an inkling Detroit was going to get a franchise. So it's been exciting to watch from YouTube is where I get most of my games, and Ion it's exciting to see. I can't wait to watch the Walker Cup final. But it's funny, Tyler, full disclosure, this is being recorded a day early, and I thought that we may be able to talk about the 2 participants in the final, but we had a rare occurrence where the game got postponed because of illness in Montreal.
Rare, maybe for the new kids on the block, not for us older folk that remember what happened 6 years ago.
Oh, well, of course, we don't want to go there, but I totally get it. But it's that's going to be a fun series. Minnesota, they're the queens, if you will, but Ottawa awaits. What's the chances, do you think, of Minnesota being able to get there for a 3rd straight year to the finals?
Well, like you said, it's gonna be weird saying this now because the game from where we're recording this in a few hours. But Minnesota has, I don't say gotten lucky, because if you look at the first 2 seasons, they had this really hot start, really the best team in the league in the first half, and they just completely faltered in the second half. Squeaked into the playoffs, but then beat the heck out of everybody when it came the postseason. They won 2 straight Walter Cups. And this year it was not as drastic of a season. They were pretty steady, but Boston and Montreal were just that good throughout the entire year. Minnesota's game is offense. They're really high scoring. They're the highest scoring team in the league. They scored more goals than the team has in the short history of this league. They scored 91 goals. They had, I think the last time I checked, at the end of the regular season, was 5 of the top 10 scorers in the league play for the Frost. Montreal has, I know Marie-Philippe Plant was hurt for most of the second half after getting hurt at the Olympics, but they have her, Laura Stacey, Abby Rock, Michigan native Abby Rock, even though she's from the UP. Lou, she's one of those Upers. She's from she's been a dynamite player. They have one of the best goalies in the world, Anne Renee Desbiens. Yeah. But the Ottawa Charge, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because Ottawa of the 3 Canadian markets is the smallest.
Yeah.
right now, or even if you include Vancouver, and even if they move to Hamilton, I mean, Hamilton will become team number 5, if you will, in terms of size. But like, they just feel like the plucky underdogs, and they're just this feel good story because Gwyneth Phillips, who I got myself and our good friend Peyton Turnage, we got to call games when she was playing at Northeastern a couple of years ago. And seeing what she's been able to grow and do and become one of the best goalies in the world behind Aaron Frankel. And then Phillips returns the favor after being the number 2 goalie at the Olympics for Team USA, beats Frankel in the first round of the playoffs after standing on her head for 4 games. And now they're back in the final for the second year in a row. Last year, they played 4 overtime games against Minnesota, lost 3 of them, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's experience there. There's confidence there. And, you know, if you have a hot goaltender in best of 5 series, I mean, you talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs where, you know, you have a little bit longer leeway. If you lose 2 games, all right, well, you have time to come back. You lose 2 games in the PWHL postseason, you're all of a sudden, you know, panicking. You're playing for your lives all of a sudden. So I'm not going to make my prediction on who would win, regardless of who comes out of Minnesota, Montreal against Ottawa. But I would not be surprised at the charge of the team holding the Walter Cup. All 3 teams that are left, certainly, even if you include Boston, all 4 of the teams that made it to the playoffs this year, all of them deserved it because they have incredible rosters, incredible players, well coached. But the 2 teams that are going to be left, I kind of hope I know Minnesota fans are going to hate me when I say this. I kind of hope it's an all-Canadian matchup because Montreal has been so close before. I mean, they got swept by Boston in the first year, lost in 4 to Ottawa last year in the semifinal. Even without Poulin, they showed that they can win hockey games during the regular season. Mm-hmm. I would love a matchup between Anne-Renee Desbiens and Gwyneth Phillips in the final. It would just, for me as a goalie, as a former goalie and a goalie nerd, I would love to see that. No matter what, it's going to be a fun 5-game series.
Well, you mentioned it being the goaltending in the playoffs. I think Boston, out of the 4, they had the worst in their goals against was 2.02. I mean, you're looking at 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. Tyler, that's phenomenal. I'd love watching good goaltending play myself. I wasn't a goalie, but that's what I really like to watch. And the playoffs have been so much fun.
It's the best part about the playoffs is, I mean, I'm going to sound like any player that's ever played hockey. Oh, everything gets tighter checking, you know, tighter, blah, 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 blah. Outside of game 1 of Montreal, Minnesota, which was a 5-4 final, Minnesota won that game. And then game 4 of Ottawa, Boston, the one that Ottawa clinched with, was a 4-3 game. Those have been the 2 highest scoring games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
was 1-0 Montreal, Minnesota, 2-1 games, 3-1 games. I love games that go down to the wire, and it's not like these teams aren't getting chances either. I mean, gosh, Phillips, I think, had to make 40? It was 43 saves in the game 4. I think she had to make 50 in game 2, the game that they won. I don't know. It's both teams. I mean, every team has a lot of offense. It's just the goaltending in this league, because at this point, people complain that, you know, the expansion is going to weather out the talent pool a little bit. I don't think so. I still think there's a lot of players that aren't able to play in this league just because there's so few teams. Mm-hmm. But you have 8 teams. You have 8 of the best goaltenders starting, and then you have goaltenders that are behind them that are still some of the best in the world. Gwyneth Phillips started last year, her rookie season, behind Emrance Mashmeyer. Mashmeyer gets hurt. Phillips goes on this run, takes Ottawa to the Walter Cup final, wins the playoff MVP award. Now Mashmeyer is the number 1 goalie in Vancouver. Phillips is there. You have Frankel, Desbiens, Reagan Kirk in Toronto. She's a national champion with Ohio State. Before that, I mean, there's no bad goaltending in this league. There are goaltenders that might look bad at times. But that's because you're playing the best players in the world every single game and facing the best shooters. Yeah. The PWHL right now has the recipe for success, for great action every single day. And I promise, I know I'm promoting this league like crazy. I am not on their payroll. No. I just love watching this league all the time, because the NHL, you're going to have a dud game here and there. Because let's be honest, watching Vancouver play, watching Vancouver play the Rangers this year, no one's going to care. Right. Seattle, Vancouver, 2 of the worst teams in the league, you're still going to get a 5-4 overtime game, and it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to mean something. So maybe that's why I think women's hockey right now might be a little more entertaining to watch on a game-by-game basis. I might be biased because I cover it, but, you know, that's just my thought.
Well, you know, Tyler, you and I have, you know, watched it. We covered it. We did play-by-play at the ACHA level. We've seen how it's grown the talent has grown exponentially in the last decade. At least that's what I've seen.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the back and forth action of it is what I love the most about it. I want to circle back to a comment you made a little bit earlier about the state of Michigan not having an NCAA team, which to me, I still, I hope one day that at least the University of Michigan gets a Division I team. I know Adrian's got a D3 team. Do you ultimately see Michigan finally getting a team? And you don't hear anything from Michigan State at all about it. But I know Denise Illich has been behind it. You mentioned Jenna Trubiano. I've talked to her as well 3 times about it. Do you see it coming to fruition down the road of Michigan finally getting a women's Division I NCAA team?
Well, I think the best part for this movement is you're getting a PWHL team now.
Yeah.
You're going to get more eyes on women's hockey in general. And even when we've had the PWHL come to town, the question to some of the Michigan players, Megan Keller, and obviously Abby Rock, Ellie Hartgee, Cheyenne Darkangelo out of Brighton. It's the question of, okay, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And they all, Melissa Chanel Watkins, there's another one from Southeast Michigan. They all ask the same thing, like it needs to happen soon, because you have a great program. You have the great AAA programs in Little Caesars, Honeybake, Belle Tire, what have you. And then you have to go elsewhere. There isn't high school hockey, varsity high school hockey, at least here in Michigan. And you have to find a way to go somewhere else. Kirsten Sims, one of the top scorers in college hockey from Plymouth, Michigan, probably would have gone to U of M and they had a team, but she had to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They're only coached by Mark Johnson, an Olympian, and they're, the greatest dynasty in the history of college hockey, but that's regardless. But, a player that if the draft works in Detroit's favor, Kirsten Sims might be playing for Detroit next year. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But
right.
When it comes to Michigan, it's the problem that they're facing right now is all the problems right now with the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the problems with Harbaugh, the problems with Strawn Moore, all the stuff that's going wrong with the football team. And that's really kind of put this hockey movement on the back burner. Former President Santa Ono, a guy from the University of British Columbia, which has obviously hockey up there, he came down and was very supportive of the club team. And when Denise put it out in the Board of Regents, her and Jordan Ackerman, another board member, Northern Regent, Santa Ono was like, yes, I am pushing for a feasibility study. And it seemed like everything was rolling in the right direction. The study came out. We realized $300 million for a new arena sounded like a lot, but there was backing, there was pushing to find owners. And then fit hit the shan, if I might put it appropriately.
Fair enough.
And that's unfortunately what's kind of set everything back a little bit. A couple people I've talked to say that it seems like what's going to need to happen is a new arena for either the men's team or both the men's and women's team. Because there's an idea that, the men get a new rink and then the women will move into Yost. That's what happened at Boston University at Walter Brown Arena. Men got the new nice arena at Agganis Arena, and then the women moved into Walter Brown. Totally great. Each team gets their own barn to call their own. I love it.
Yeah.
But in order to build a new arena, you need a lot of money. And, there's economy's not the greatest right now, especially in Michigan. And you're not raking in the dollars that you were a couple of years ago when this was introduced and kind of put to the forefront. And like I said, everything that's gone wrong with the athletic department in Ann Arbor the last couple of years, it's really kind of pushed down any other agenda matters. Even though personally, for someone who's worked in media relations, this would be the best time to make a move about that because, hey, look, I know there's all this bad stuff that's happening with us, but look, we got a women's hockey team now.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to segue the mindset and the kind of the viewpoint of how some people look at the University of Michigan. But like I said, I don't make the dollars. I don't make the cents. I barely make any sense if you ask my wife. So I think we're a few years down the road from a U of M team. You mentioned Michigan State. That's a long shot. I talked to a couple people in their athletic department. They said when they renovated their arena a couple of years ago, there was no room. I mean, it's the same thing with the Yost Ice Arena. There's really no room to have a permanent women's hockey tenant at Munn Ice Arena. Had they had that in mind, they would have, kind of maybe put the money towards that. But there was really no plan for that. I think they still like just having the men's team there.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's ever been to East Lansing or Ann Arbor, Munn Ice Arena and Yost Ice Arena, The barns are great. I love going to both of them to watch hockey games. Very tight quarters where they're put at. So it's a unique area, but I would say Michigan is still the front runner to be the first to get an NCAA women's team, or at least the next team. I know Wayne State was technically the first, but Michigan will probably be there. But just right now, with all the problems that are happening over on that campus, I just think it's still going to be a few years away, which stinks because it felt like we were maybe just a couple years away 2 years ago from this being, we would have had maybe a Detroit announcement and a University of Michigan announcement at the same time. But unfortunately, the puck didn't bounce that way, Lou.
Well, you know what, Tyler? At least we're getting a Detroit PWHL franchise, and that is so exciting. I am so stoked for that. When I heard the news, you were the first one that I wanted to get a hold of, and I'm glad that you were able to come on. Before we let you go, I'd be remiss without asking you your thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs. To me, the first round's always the most fun to watch, but I think it's been an entertaining second round as well. Give me your thoughts on who do you think is going to hoist Lord Stanley, and any kind of surprise I might be able to look for.
I know people are thinking statistically Carolina's the team to beat.
Yeah.
But you just look at what their track record is, and I don't care if they're the first team since the 85 Oilers to go 8-0 to start a playoff. I don't care if they're the first team in the modern era of the playoff format to sweep their first two rounds. You look at what's coming out of Montreal and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that series, they might be black and blue, but they're going to be ready they'll know what it takes, right?
Right.
And I think what we've seen in the first couple of games here, Montreal, Buffalo, I know game 4 is tonight, but they learned a lot from beating Tampa, and they're taking it out on Buffalo. Mm-hmm. If they can get through Buffalo in quick succession here, I mean, they might meet a well-rested Carolina team, but that's going to be a rusty Carolina team. They finished their series up against Philly before game 3 of Montreal Buffalo.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of seeing Montreal Buffalo, whoever wins that series, go through to the final. Out west, it's a crapshoot. Oh. I really thought Edmonton was going to make it back to the conference final, but then the Ducks are like, excuse me, we are still a hockey team, and they're a dang good hockey team. Now they're pushing Vegas around. Yeah. And the Central Division, I thought Minnesota was going to put up more of a fight against Colorado. I still think they can. I still think they win game 5, at least bring it back to St. Paul. Colorado just looking no matter who's in net for them, you have to get shots on their goalie to win hockey games. That team is just from top to bottom. But then again, I think Colorado could make it to the final because I just think whoever comes out of the Pacific is just going to be torn apart because Anaheim's proven to be tougher than Vegas thought, and Vegas is still a tough team to play against. But I just think that whole division's terrible this year. So give me Colorado and Montreal in the final.
Okay.
I'm already speaking too much as it is because I have friends in both Quebec and in Denver. So I'm not going to say who I think is going to win that series, but it's no matter what's going to happen, it's going to be a fun finish to these playoffs. There's too much good that's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
And I've said this already. Now we're going to see Buffalo and Anaheim somehow. It's going to be the worst ratings in U.S. television history, but you know what? In Buffalo and in Canada, they're going to be great. So that's all that matters.
Well, I predicted at the beginning, I went chalk with Colorado and Carolina. I just thought it was Carolina's turn this year to at least get to the finals. Boy, I like your logic, though. My heart says Montreal. I'm right there with you. And I just love the play of Colorado. You mentioned it, their goaltending. You know, you're a goaltending nerd, like you said. They're able to interchange. And last night, I thought Blackwood played very, very well. They pummeled Minnesota as far as the shots on goal early. But I could see that one ending tomorrow night in Colorado. I just don't know if I have the faith in the Wild that you have.
But the problem is Colorado is so good at losing at home in the playoffs, though. That's the thing. Like, I think they'll Clint. Like, remember they should have won the series, or they probably, like, that's why in 22 when they were playing Tampa, they were so scared to go back to Game 7, even though it was going to be in Denver. Because they knew, like, hey, we could probably lose at home. So I think that's why I think Minnesota makes it a 6-game series, but Colorado, like you said, will close it out.
Yeah, and I just, there's something missing with Vegas as far as me having a lot of faith.
What do you mean? Mitch Marner's there, man.
Oh boy. Okay.
He scored a hat trick, his first hat trick. John Tortorella defended him because, there's logic.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, Torts, whatever, man. I'm with you though. On my show earlier, when I had Edmonton at least going to the conference finals. I didn't give Anaheim any stock, which, full disclosure, I apologize. I was wrong. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no, it's these playoffs are just, I don't want to say they're different from years past, but I don't know what it is. It just, feels like there's something going on, right? Because we haven't seen Philly in a while in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Anaheim. Like, it feels very mid 2010s.
Yeah.
But the game has changed so much in the last decade. It's hard to say, right? Because, 10 years ago was 11 years ago was the last time we saw Minnesota win a playoff round. And that was still when Dallas was good.
Yeah.
Colorado wasn't, but there's just so much mixture because the old guard of Tampa, I don't want to say Colorado's old guard, but they've been good for quite a number of years now. Vegas is the same thing, but you see Anaheim come in. I still think Philly's going to be a team for the future. Pittsburgh is, I don't know, but they're there. Buffalo and Montreal are going to be running the Atlantic for the next 5-6 years, the way their teams are built, the way their rosters are salary caps and contracts and everything. It seems like this is a year of changing of the guard, which I like to see. And that's why I think a Colorado-Montreal final will just be hilarious, because you're going to see Montreal fans going up against the team that, even though it's been 30 years, people still remember that Colorado team was formerly a team in their province, and they're going to hate them regardless, because Colorado insists on wearing those Quebec jerseys, even though that's not them anymore. That's why I love Minnesota-Dallas series, because Dallas is like, yeah, we're the former North Stars, and Minnesota fans are like, absolutely not. You take that back. You have nothing to do with us.
But that's funny you mentioned that. I've got a good buddy that we were roommates 40 years ago, I believe it was, or something to that effect. And he was such a diehard Minnesota North Stars fan, and he just wants nothing to do with that Dallas franchise. He called me and was ecstatic. He was just screaming when the Wild beat him. So it's so funny how grudges don't go away when it comes to that type of thing.
Minnesota, I mean, you see it too, even at the ACHA level and college level. Minnesota hockey fans, they're cliquey, man. They're a cult. They're something else. Like, if you're outside their state, I mean, everyone jokes about the movie Miracle, Boston University, Minnesota. I'm like, oh man, that was crazy back then. Back then, that is now. I mean, thankfully I have some friends that are in Minnesota, but I choose my words wisely if I ever try to criticize the Gophers or even Minnesota State. Like, I just be careful. I walk on eggshells so I don't criticize them, because the last thing I need to do them is to say how many Minnesotans have ever won the Stanley Cup and how many Minnesota national championships and yada, yada, yada. Because Minnesota hockey is the Dallas Cowboy, New York Yankees fan base of hockey. They are passionate. They have winners in their realms, maybe not in the NHL, but they're very passionate and think any other fan base is wrong. I will say that.
Don't ever say anything bad about St. Thomas either. And just going,
man,
putting it out there. I did that by mistake during a game a couple of years ago. And when you wonder how many people are watching or listening. Oh yeah, they're watching and listening there. Your point is well taken.
That's why I'm glad St. Thomas won that infamous pool play game against Mary a couple of years ago in Boston, the empty net overtime goal. Because if Mary had lost or Mary had won that game, I mean, Peyton and I were calling that game. We were astounded what was happening. But if we said anything bad about St. Thomas, we were standing on that row. If you remember you were next to the fans. And there was both Mary on one side of us and purple on the other. And we were just being careful of just call it down the middle. Don't say anything that's going to make anyone mad. Because that's what happened the year before with Mary fans. They got mad at us because they were trying to jump in our booth. But that's a whole different story for a different time.
Oh, boy. Great ACHA. I knew we would get a couple of them in here, Tyler. I absolutely love it.
We could go for hours on ACHA National Tournament, ACHA Regional, or even some of our games that we've called here in West Michigan. The stories we have, Lou, take about a week's worth of shows.
Well, I promise you this. Once your life gets settled down a little bit, maybe in the fall, it's not going to be 2 or 3 years before we have you back on the show again. We got to have you back on maybe, before the college hockey season starts back up, and also before the PWHL starts back up in the fall. We can keep the stories going. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me, Lou.
Well, Tyler, thank you very much for joining us. Keep up the great work on dailyfaceoff.com amongst all the other things you do. This has been an absolute treat. Good luck this summer, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Lou. Good seeing you as always.
All right. That, of course, Tyler Kuehl from the dailyfaceoff.com. We talked about it. I've had the pleasure of working with him throughout the years doing ACHA games. He's been on in the past, as I mentioned, talking about ACHA hockey, and he does such great work covering the PWHL for the Daily Faceoff, college hockey. You've heard him occasionally do some Western Michigan games in the NCAA level, play-by-play. He's a very talented young man, and it's always fun to catch up with him. And as I promise, we will have him on again in the fall talking college hockey, PWHL especially, as Detroit gets their first team in the professional women's realm, professional women's hockey. One of 3 expansion teams so far announced. Hamilton is going to get formally announced tomorrow. Vegas got announced today, and the rumor out there is that San Jose will be the 12th team added to the PWHL coming up in the 26-27 season. So exciting times. But before that, as mentioned, the Walter Cup starts tomorrow night on Ion TV and, of course, on their YouTube channel. It's going to be Montreal and Ottawa in an all-Canadian finals. We'll have a brand new Walter Cup champion, a brand new PWHL world champion, as Montreal and Ottawa looking for their first Cup championship. So again, thank you very much to Tyler for taking time out to be with us as he gets set to now start covering the finals, game 1 tomorrow night. So really exciting time in the world of the PWHL. All right, we've got about, I'd say, 20 minutes before tip-off for the Pistons. We talked about that, but before we get into that, again, I want to remind everybody that we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. You'll get all of these great interviews, all our shows live and archived. The Extravaganza with yours truly, and our tag team partner, Mitch Bernstein, who's off tonight. He'll be back next week as his Philadelphia geared show will take place at 7 o'clock next Wednesday. And we got all of our Extravagant Few Minutes episodes and the ACHA Power Play. Season 10 is in the books. All of our shows are archived there as well. And season 11 will start right after Labor Day, like it always does with the Road to St. Louis. But the way to get all of that, to get all those interviews, all the shows live and archived, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. We got a lot planned for the summer and the fall with football season coming up before you know it. It's going to be a fun time to subscribe to our YouTube channel, get all of our predictions, all of our coverage of all football, hockey, you name it, and the world of sports here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. And real quick, again, today's show, as always, is brought to you by the official secondary market of the Captain Lou Sports Network, and that is SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou and you get $20 off of your purchase. There's a game you want to go to. I know the Tigers are in New York for the weekend, then they'll be back in town this weekend. Right now, they're up 2-1 over the Mets in New York, the battle of last place teams. But go to SeatGeek, use that promo code Captain Lou, and you get $20 off your purchase. If you're going to be in Buffalo tomorrow night for Game 5 between the Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres, or if you're going to be in Anaheim for Game 6 between the Vegas Golden Knights and Anaheim, go to SeatGeek, use that promo code for $20 off of your purchase. Or if you're going to be in Cleveland, Game 6 Friday night for the Pistons and the Cavaliers, it could be a closeout game depending on who wins tonight. The winner will have a chance to close the other team out, obviously. Go to SeatGeek, use that promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. All right, we mentioned it. A must game tonight at Little Caesars Arena. Game 5, the Pistons and the Cavaliers. Detroit won the first 2 at home. Cleveland won the second 2. They won rather easily in the second half, pulled away with a big second half, a big third quarter against the Pistons in Game 4. So this is huge. Detroit's got to win this one, losing 2 straight. They got to find a way to get back on the winning track. I think they've got a pretty good opportunity to do it, to force, to maybe get into that position to wrap it up in Game 6. The winner gets the New York Knicks, who swept the Philadelphia 76ers, took care of them rather easily. They've had a pretty easy road to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're looking pretty scary, are the Knicks right now, but I think that the Cavaliers or the Pistons could take them to go to the finals. But before they can think of that, they got to finish off one of the other teams. So it's going to be an interesting game tonight. Game 5, Pistons And the Cavaliers starting off in about 15 minutes or so with the opening tip. Huge game. Detroit 3.5 to a 4.5 point favorite at home in this one. And they need it. They can't afford to lose 3 straight going into Cleveland, I don't think, going into Game 6. They lose tonight, it's going to be tough to beat Cleveland 2 in a row. I think if they win, obviously, then the pressure will be on Cleveland in their home barn on Friday night. So big game tonight for them. And then, of course, the winner gets New York. In the Western Conference, Oklahoma City. They polished off the Lakers in 4 straight. They're going to take on the winner of the Timberwolves and the Spurs. I think that one's all done. I said it before. I said it this morning. Really disappointed in the answer from Minnesota against Wembanyama and the Spurs. Now, again, as I mentioned, I'm not advocating taking the guy out, injuring him or anything, but you got to rough him up a little bit. He got away with that elbow. He got kicked out. I get it in Game 4. And, maybe he should have got suspended. We could argue about that till the cows come home. I don't know if he should have got suspended. I go back and forth on it. But I think what the Timberwolves should have made it happen was they should have roughed him up a little bit to make him earn more of the points that he got. I mean, when he's got 16 points and 7 assists in the first 8 minutes of that game, it's like, all right, it's kind of like they laid down. I don't know if Minnesota's running out of gas, whatever. But I look back at any of the other teams, even this year, the Knicks, the Pistons, Oklahoma City, they'd have done that to them, the Cavaliers. Him going inside, he'd pay for it. And I just don't think Minnesota made him pay for it. And again, maybe this is the new style of basketball that I got to get used to. But, without going back and sounding like the old man, get off my lawn type of thing. Boy, if they would have came in the paint back in the day, especially after doing something like that, yeah, he would have he'd have paid for it. He'd have been hurt. He wouldn't have been injured, but he'd have felt it. That's for sure. So anyways, Game 6 for them in Minnesota's coming up tomorrow. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I look for San Antonio to polish that off and set up what is going to be one hell of a Western Conference final. I think both conference finals in the NBA are going to be pretty good, no matter who's playing them. I think they're both going to go at least 6 to determine who's going to play for the NBA title. And quickly, in Major League Baseball, as I mentioned, the Tigers, they're up 2-1 on the Mets right now, looking to try to even that series up. We talked about the standings earlier this morning in my show, and it's pretty sad that there are only 4 teams right now in the American League that are above 500. The rest are all below 500. The Tampa Bay Rays with a 2.5-game lead over the New York Yankees. The Cleveland Indians, or Guardians, I should say. Yeah. How many years is it going to take me to get that name right? They're the only team in the Central above 500. I think they're 4 games above. The Athletics are 1 game above 500. They're leading that division. But if you think about it, the National League Central, every team's over 500. In the National League East, there's only 1 team above 500, and that's the Atlanta Braves. And then in the West, there's only 2 above 500. So a majority of the teams are still below 500. It's insane. But the American League is so watered down right now, so mediocre. That's probably a kind word for it. Detroit, as bad as they're playing, as horrible as they're playing, going into tonight with Cleveland winning, they're only 3.5 games out of first in the division, and they're only a game and a half out of a wild card spot. That's, to me, is just mind-boggling. So as bad as it's been, and it's been horrible, the Tigers are nothing better than a AAA ball club right now with the errors they're making, the horrible pitching, they're not injured in the bullpen. They can't hold a lead. Jack Flaherty, I don't know where he is as a starter. I know Framber Valdez back from his suspension. Don't get me going on that. He should have got more. Coming from a Tigers fan, I think he should have got at least 20 games. Another argument for another day. I just, as bad as it's been for the Tigers, they're still only a game and a half out of a wild card. And I know it's early talking about that on May 14th. So no panic button for me. Get healthy. You're lucky you're playing in a mediocre division and a mediocre league, that being the American League, which is, that again is being kind, calling it mediocre. So, hey, before we get to our last segment, again, I want to remind everybody that coming up tomorrow night, 9:00 Eastern time, we're going to have our Extravagant Detroit Lions 2026 schedule reveal show. We're going to go through the schedule. It comes out technically, formally tomorrow night at 8:00 Eastern time on the NFL channel, but we're going to break it down at 9:00 Eastern time. yours truly and the guys from Michigan Sports and Entertainment, Dan Murphy and the coach Brian Barnes. We're going to break down each game, where it stands. We're going to give our way too early predictions on how the Lions are going to do, and we're going to take a look at some of the other games, the Monday night games, all of that. It's a lot of fun. It again, the NFL machine, the PR machine is at its best, leaking a few games out here and there, but we're going to go through the entire schedule tomorrow night, 9:00 live right here on the network, on the Captain Lou Sports Network. We invite you to watch us there. We'll break it all down for you. Always a lot of fun. Football nerds like myself can't get enough with football season less than 100 days away, but we're going to just kind of whet your appetite to tell you who's playing where. You can start planning your tickets or whatever, your trips if you want to go to an away game. If you're going to fly out of Detroit to go to Munich, it's going to cost you $3,000. So, all right, we do know 3 games for the Lions. Real quick, it was announced earlier. They're going to open up the brand new stadium in Buffalo, week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. It's a Thursday night game on Amazon Prime. I get it. You're going to have to pay to watch it at home. So that's game 2, first road game. Well, we're assuming Detroit gets a home game to open up the schedule. But in Buffalo, on a Thursday in September, I know I got a buddy of mine that's going to that game, him and his boys, so they're going to have a lot of fun. Then it was announced that week 10, the Lions are going to Munich. They're going to take on the New England Patriots, which to me is very, very surprising that they would give up a marquee game, the NFL that is, as it's going to be the Lions and the Patriots in week 10 over in Munich. And then after that, the Thanksgiving Day game was announced, and yeah, it's going to be the Lions and the Bears again. It seems like it's always either Detroit and Chicago or the Packers on Thanksgiving. This year, it's going to be the Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving in 2026. So those are the games that are announced so far for the Lions. Some other primetime games might be leaked out tomorrow, but we're going to go through the whole schedule tomorrow night, 9:00, right here on the network. And again, another programming note coming up on Friday. We normally go at 11:00. We're going to go at 1:00 Friday afternoon. Joining us live will be Max Bultman from The Athletic. We're going to talk all about the Detroit Red Wings, talk a little bit about the Griffins and their Calder Cup run, and what is in store for the Red Wings. He covers them every day. We're going to get his insight on the goalie talk, whatever. That's the Red Wings. Check it out. The Red Wings Talk with Max Bultman, 1:00 Friday afternoon right here on the network. All right. Lastly, tonight, we had him on the show Monday. We had our PGA preview show on Monday, where we talked to Chris Mascaro from the Next on the Tee podcast series. Check them out at nextonthetee.net. He stopped by to talk about everything Live Tour, the PGA, and all of that, and talked about his podcast. But the main reason we had him on was to talk about the second leg of the Grand Slam of 2026 for the PGA Tour, for golf in general, and that is the PGA Championship. And we asked him, what should we expect this weekend in this second major? The PGA Championship, May 14th through the 17th, Aronimink, I think I pronounced that right, Golf Club in Pennsylvania. First of all, tell us a little bit about the course and, what type of style benefits the most from playing that particular style of course?
Yeah, so Aronimink is one of the most historic courses that we have in our game, right? It dates all the way back to just prior to the turn of the previous century, back to 1896. And it's a beautiful golf course. Donald Ross, it's a gem. Congratulations to Gil Hanse for getting his hands on it, because there were several other architects that had come in along the way that changed this and changed that and all that sort of stuff. And then Gil Hanse helped return it to the original Donald Ross kind of design concepts. So I give him a ton of credit for that. But Aronimink is a beautiful golf course. It's going to be a par 70 layout, just a shade under 7,400 yards. The elevated green, to me, it's very similar in my mind. The way I kind of look at it is it's like Augusta National with rough, because the lengths are very similar. We know Augusta National doesn't have rough, but Aronimink does. And it's, a lot of elevated greens, a lot of severe bunkering. The rough will be thick. The bent grass greens are going to be slick and fast. And a lot of the a lot of the green complexes are very undulated. So, and there's a lot of spines that run through it. So what that means is, you're going to, if you hit a spine, it can roll back down into one bowl area or kick forward into another. It's going to make some of the longer lag putts pretty interesting to watch. So you've got to be very precise. We know at Augusta National, there's spots on the green you have to hit if you're going to A, hold the green, or B, give yourself an opportunity to make birdie. And I think Aronimik is going to do essentially the same thing. You mentioned, who does this favor? Well, to me, Aronimik favors somebody who is a really great ball striker and is really good with their longer irons. I don't see this becoming a driver pitching wedge kind of opportunity. This is, the guys are going to have to go through their bag and they're going to have to hit some long iron shots into these greens. So who has control of their distance and the spin on the golf ball is going to make a huge difference of who has an opportunity to come out a winner. I think you're going to have great approach shots. I think you're going to have great second shots and long iron shots. I think you're going to be really good at scrambling around some of these greens. And like I say, the bunker complexes are unbelievable. So who can avoid those the most is going to be a winner as well. Who does this favor? Well, I mean, it's again, like we talked about a minute ago, Rory to me is on top of this game. No one hits it further. No one hits it better than he and Scotty Scheffler. So to me, those guys are 1 and 1A. If Scotty could just play great on Thursdays, he'd probably win every golf tournament. The guy is unbelievable on the weekends. If he could just not shoot 74 on Thursday, the guy could clean house. So that to me is a key for Scotty. Don't get too far out on Thursday because we know he's going to make a huge charge on Saturday and Sunday. And he just finished second this past week. Could have had a better opportunity if Thursday wasn't a deal. Now, the other thing that we've seen, right? I mean, Cam Young is a guy that is just unbelievable. He had an opportunity at Augusta, didn't pan out for him, but won last week going away. Scotty was the guy in second place. Scotty still shot his normal, great round on Sunday, but Cam matched him. I was really curious to see how Cam was going to play this past Sunday. Does he shoot 74 and Scotty shoots 67 and then Scotty goes on to win, or can Cam go out there and keep his foot on the gas pedal? And he did a great job of doing that. So no one's playing better than he is right now. So I think those are the three guys you're going to watch at the top. Who else can sneak in? Who else is playing really well? I mean, I keep waiting for Ludwig Åberg to step up and be the guy. I mean, I think he's got everything there is to have to be one of the dominant players, and he hasn't put it all together for 4 rounds. So I'm waiting for him to be the guy that is able to do that. Xander Schauffele, I mean, many people may not realize he still finished 9th this year at the Masters, and he always plays well there. And I'm waiting for him to kind of put it all back together, kind of struggled for a little while, had some injuries, that sort of thing, but played awfully well last month at Augusta. So could he come out here and play well here? Yeah, I think he really can. And we all know what a great ball striker he is and how well he hits his irons. And when you're talking about approach shots with longer irons, who's a great long iron player? Well, Colin Morikawa fits right in there as well. So those are the guys that I'm anticipating. End of the day, there are other long horses. I mean, Tommy Fleetwood finally got the elephant off of his back when he finally won here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. I love Tommy. I think he's a great guy. Yeah. Wouldn't mind seeing him make a run. No one's more fun when they win than Shane Lowry. So, I'd love to see him play really, really well. So I think he's got an opportunity. Matthew Fitzpatrick, we've seen over the last few weeks, he's back on top of his game. Nobody is a better bunker player than that guy is. He's extremely accurate. He's a heck of a putter. So he's a guy that I expect to be right up at the top of the leaderboard as well.
All right, there you go. Sorry about that. Chris Mascaro from the Next on the Tee podcast series, getting us all set here for tomorrow. 6:45, the first tee or the first group goes off tomorrow morning. Man, that is early, but that's out east. The sun sets later, or it comes up early, I guess. I know I've teed off at dark 30 before in the summertime, but here in Michigan, I got to think about that, where it's like 48 degrees right now, or it was today in Michigan, but it's going to be in the 80s. So the second leg of the tour, the second leg of the Grand Slam, if you will, the PGA Championship, the second major that starts tomorrow morning. And thanks to Chris for taking time out to be with us. Real quick, a couple of things we forgot to mention. Craig Berube, well, however you want to pronounce it, fired today as the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kind of a shocker there. Although they're going in a brand new direction. They get the number 1 pick of the draft. They won the draft lottery. They got rid of their GM, so they're starting over. Watch for Bruce Cassidy, who just got fired from the Vegas Golden Knights, to potentially take over for them, or who knows, with Toronto. But they're starting over again, as Craig Berube was fired today as the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we talk about the Pistons going into Game 5 tonight against Cleveland. I just found out Duncan Robinson ruled out with a back injury. Danis Jenkins is getting the start for the Pistons. A big blow for the Pistons coming in. Good role player out tonight. Duncan Robinson for the Pistons with a back injury. Crucial must-win Game 5 for the Pistons tonight. All right, that's going to do it. Game 5, I'll talk about a crucial game. I know Dave Kurtz is watching his Colorado Avalanche, looking to try to close out the Minnesota Wild. They're starting right now in Colorado, Game 5 there as well. All right, everybody. I want to thank Tyler Kuehl for joining us, talking from the dailyfaceoff.com, talking PWHL, Detroit getting a franchise, the Walter Cup, everything NHL and PWHL. Thanks to Tyler for coming on. And, of course, again, a look back and a thank, as always, Chris Mascaro getting us ready for the PGA Championship. And I want to thank you, the viewer, for taking time out to be with us, watching us on your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, on your television screen on YouTube, for all I know. Thanks for taking time out to be with us here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. One more time, join us tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, for our extravagant, what do you want to call it? Our extravagant Detroit Lions 2026 reveal show. We're going to go through all the Lions schedule tomorrow. No more leaks as for tomorrow night. It'll all be front and center. Dan Murphy and the coach Brian Barnes from Michigan Sports and Entertainment will stop by and go over it with us. We'll get our way too early predictions. And then again, another scheduling point. Friday, we'll be on live at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Max Baltman from The Athletic will stop by and we'll talk Red Wings hockey. All right, that's going to do it, everybody. Enjoy the games. Enjoy Game 5 in Detroit and Colorado. And if you're a Tigers fan, let's hope they can get off the schneid. Until next time, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving. And as always, keep your minds open. So long.